It's Pickems time for the first time in CS2 and the first major of Counter-Strike 2. It is going to be time for the opening stage Pickems. Super hyped for this one. They have reworked the Pick'em system a little bit, but for the most part, it plays the same way. You still need your 5 out of 10 for the opening stage, the elimination stage. You need 2 out of 4 for the quarters, 1 out of 2 for the semis, and then, of course, you need to get the grand final pick correct if you want to get that diamond coin. And that's all I'm here for, realistically, is I just want the diamond coin. The first CS2 major, the first diamond coin. Yes, please. So the main difference is that before you had one team to go advance 3-0 and one team to get eliminated 0-3, and then you had 8 teams to advance. This is a little bit more difficult now because you need 2 3-0 teams and 2 0-3 teams. Now, I think for the opening stage, it's not as much of a problem, but going through into the elimination stage, this is going to become a lot more problematic. So going for those gamble picks may not be as applicable or as smart to do now as it was in the past, but I think in this opening stage, it's perfectly fine still to do, because I think some teams are very much higher caliber than others in this one. The elimination stage is going to get crazy. So I'm going to go for one team I think is going to make it through 3-0, and I'm going to go for a gamble pick as my 3-0s. For my 0-3, I'm going to pick the 2 teams I think are probably the worst at this major, and then I'm going to advance with some of the teams that I think are very likely to make it. So Cloud9, going to advance. I'm going to go for Furia to advance, Heroic to advance. Additionally, I'm going to go for Apex to advance, Saw, and then for my gamble pick to advance, I'm going for the Mongolz. They looked fantastic at the Asian RMRs. They absolutely blitzed everybody. I think this is one of the best chances that in recent memory I can think of or recall. Maybe Tai Lu had a couple of better opportunities, but the Mongols are looking so damn good right now as it stands that I think this team can actually go pretty far in the major. Especially in this state of flux with some of the upper echelon players and teams not even at the major in the first place. Some teams going through a transitional phase. Some teams not quite landing in CS2 as solidly as others. I think the Mongols here could create real chaos and be a real thorn to deal with. Now, their first game is against Eternal Fire, which I actually think they're the underdogs in. But it's the first game of the major. It's a best of 1. It's the same format as before. Best of 1s until decide a matchup. So when you're 2-0 and 0-2, those are going to be best of 3s. Up until that point, it's best of 1s. They could definitely take down Eternal Fire. And at that point, who knows what happens. So they're my gamble pick. People putting them in the 0-3 bracket, like, have you been watching Counter-Strike? Like, these guys are really, really good. I'm going to go for Ents as a team that I think is not guaranteed, but very likely to go through 3-0. Their first game is against Imperial. I think that's a bit of a gimme. Imperial have looked very rough coming into this. And then my gamble pick alongside that is going to be Eternal Fire, the team I just touched on before, that the Mongols is going to be playing in their very first game. This is kind of twofold. One, I think Eternal Fire are such a solid team, but I've been burned from these guys in the past. You know, I've believed and I've been let down. Now, this is a different squad, of course. You've got Xantaras and Voxic together. Calyx is in there with Cadia, Major. This is a very solid team. Also, they've been having some very good performances on the lead up to the major, and they haven't really played since the RMRs. They've been able to boot camp. They've been able to really anti-strat and really put in a lot of work in behind the scenes that people haven't been able to really witness or see too much about. But additionally, when you look at their RMR run, they only lost to G2 and FaZe. Like, fair enough. With some very good performances like Falcons, they smashed Falcons. Before that at Katowice, they only lost to like Na'Vi. So this is a team that their only losses realistically are coming to top echelon, like really heavy hitting squads, and they're not in this opening stage. So I think Eternal Fire, there's still a bit of a coin flip for me. There's still a bit of a gamble. But I certainly think that they have more than enough potential and firepower to get themselves across, especially if they start well against the Mongols, because that's going to be a great confidence builder. I think a lot of teams are going to really respect the Mongols at this major. So going through to our 0-3 picks, this is a little bit more difficult for me. I think there's definitely 2 or 3 teams that jump out. I think you're looking at Pain, you're looking at Imperial. Unfortunately, it's the Brazilian teams, realistically, in Legacy. I don't think that Linvision are in the conversation to go 0-3. I think they're a little bit too good for that, especially considering that their first game's against Heroic, which you expect them to lose. When I was looking at a predictor going into this, Not sure how accurate it was, but it was obviously very dependent on the results going the right way and the seeding and all that kind of stuff. But it said that Lin Vision may very well play against Pain in a 0-2 matchup. And in all honesty, I think if that happens, I would expect Lin Vision to probably win that game, because Pain have had their problems. They got some very good players. Koaz in particular, very impressed with him, but as a unit, not been that impressed with him. And when you consider that coming into the NA, or Americas, pardon me, RMRs, they went 3-1. They lost to Imperial, who are also here, of course. But then additionally, their wins were against Legacy 13-2 in the first game. I don't think Legacy really showed up to the server on that one. It was a very comprehensive win. They beat Red Canids and Odic. They dodged Furia, Complexity, and Liquid. And they didn't even play against some of like the upper teams in there as well, like the Nouns and M80s and stuff like that, which some of the other teams here did. So that's quite a straightforward run, if we're being completely honest about it. And I haven't been really overly impressed with Pain when it comes to their prospects of beating some of these teams. Their first game is against Apex. I just don't see them winning that game at all, unless Apex have a horrible start. But Apex are coming into this with far, far better pedigree of players and far better form, and way more in terms of experience and veterancy with like Stiko and Jacob on their team. So I'm a bit skeptical over Pain here, to be honest. Additionally, I think you've got to put Legacy in the conversation. Their first game is against Furia, and I can't really foresee how they're going to beat Furia in that game. Maybe they catch them off guard first game of the major, but I just don't see it happening at all. I think they're probably going to get pushed down pretty hard. Imperial against Ents in the first game is definitely in with a shout as well to be a potential 0-3 pick, because they're a team that they had a bit of success, actually. If I just look at their previous games, they weren't getting completely bodied. They were getting wins against like Pain and M80 and the NRG. In the RMR, they went through 3-0 with some good performances, and I was pretty hype about that. And then they go to the Blast Premier Spring Showdown, they get smashed by Monty 2-0 in a bloodbath game, 13-5, 13-8. So I'm like, okay, well, what's going on here, Imperial? It doesn't really give me too much confidence about this team. But I think for the first of these teams, I'm actually going to put Legacy in here, because even though they have some decent players, obviously with tons of experience, they've got Coldzera, Nekis as their sort of IGL is another player with tons of veterancy. Looking at their team and looking at some of their performances, man, like it doesn't breathe much confidence to me whatsoever. And I think they're going to lose to Fury in the first game. They're going to be down in that 0-1 bracket. They did battle back after a horrible loss in the RMRs, so we know that they have tenacity and they're a tenacious bunch of players, but I can't really see how they battle their way back. And then for my second 0-3 team, unfortunately, I'm going to have to double dip on the Brazilians here, and I think I'm going to have to go for Pain. I think Pain is another team that at the Americas RMRs may have shone pretty bright, but this is a very different ball game. And if I look at Lin Vision and Imperial, who are the two teams really realistically that I see down in the same bracket as 0-3s in those 0-2 matchups, I think Lin Vision beat Legacy or Pain, and I think Imperial probably beat Legacy or Pain right now. I don't think that Amcal, Koi, Ecstatic, or Nine Pandas are even in the conversation. So for those reasons, this is going to be my picks. I want to go for Ents and Eternal Fire to be the 3-0 advancing teams. Cloud9, Furia, Heroic, Apex, Saw, and the Mongolz to make it through. And then Legacy and Pain to be my 0-3 eliminated teams. Now, there's a couple of teams here that are definitely on the periphery. I don't think Ecstatic are going to rinse and repeat. They had a very impressive performance when it came to the RMR. I was very impressed with Patty and Kragan in particular. These two players are very good on home soil. Does it give them a buff? Maybe, but it can also work against a lot of teams. The pressure can be too high and they can crash and burn. Now, going to be on the periphery, I can see them getting 1 or 2 wins, to be fair. I don't think they're going to be down in that 0-3 bracket, even though their first game is against Cloud9, which is going to be a tough one. And the other team is Amcal. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on Amcal. It was really between Amcal and the Mongolz for me to pick which of these two were going to advance. But the fact that it was a case of Amcal playing its 9 Pandas in the first game, which is kind of like this local derby, so to speak. They've played against each other quite a few times. They played against each other, the RMRs, where Amcal came out ahead, but it's a bit of a coin flip. Stylistically, it's a weird match as well. I'm gonna go for the Mongols instead as my gamble pick, which definitely could prove to be wrong. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'm going to be obviously releasing videos throughout the major, on the elimination stage and the playoffs as well. Jackie and I should be quite busy additionally during this major. It hasn't been announced yet, but it should be soon. So I'm not sure how much content I'm going to be able to release, but that is all for now. Thank you very much for watching. Do you agree or disagree? Which teams do you think I'm completely wrong about or have maybe overlooked? See you in the next video.